Hi, I'm Femi OK. The horrific gang rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl in India has ignited nationwide protests and calls for government accountability. Today, the stream speaks to activists demanding justice for Asifa. We're now live on Jazeera and YouTube, so you can be part of today's conversation by leaving your comments on our live stream and also tweeting at #AJStream. We are starting with a report from Al Jazeera's Shaher Uzad Ghafoor. Take a look.
Protesters angry over the rape and murder of Asifa Bano. The 8-year-old girl was kidnapped and attacked in January. Police say it was part of a plan to force her Muslim nomadic community to leave the area. Asifa was abducted and held hostage in a temple for days. Her attackers were Hindu. Hindu nationalists rushed to the defense of the accused, including lawyers and government ministers from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party. Rahul Gandhi, leader of the Indian National Congress, held a candlelight vigil for Asifa, saying the government is not doing enough for victims like her. And while the religious and political bickering continues to divide the country, there's still no justice for the innocent little girl whose life was so brutally taken. Scheherazade Ghafoor, Al Jazeera.
As you just saw there, Indians have been incensed by the murder of Asifa. Many people are using the hashtags Justice for Asifa and My Street, My Protest to demand accountability and action. Let me give you a little sample of some of the tweets and the online commentary that's been going on. Hada Merchant says, we need a safer India for women. We need justice for all rape victims. Speak up. Every voice counts. Mithali criticises the time it took for this case to receive attention, wondering how many children, girls and women must be brutally killed before we act and not react. And Sobtian notes that the sister is not much older than Asifa and that she fears for her safety. Here's a video that she took of a recent Justice for Asifa protest. Prime Minister Modi and the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, promised to combat gender-based violence with an initiative called Save the Girl Child, Educate the Girl Child. The police report of what happened to Asifa has a lot of people asking questions. Joining us in New Delhi to help us discuss them, Farah Naqvi is a writer as well as a women's and minority rights activist. Burqa Dutt is a journalist and contributor to The Washington Post. And Ajay Gautam is the founder of Hum Hindu, a Hindu rights and welfare organization. Guests, it is good to have you here on the stream. Burqa, when you first heard this story, your initial reaction was what?
Well, what that of any human being with a heart would be. This was a child. She'd gone to take her ponies, to the forest pond near her village. She belonged to a nomadic community. She was out grazing her cattle. She disappeared and never made it home. We now know from the police charge sheet itself that she was abducted. She was forcibly sedated. She was raped, gang raped, not once but repeatedly. And then she was killed and her head was hit twice with a stone to make sure that she was dead. How can any human's heart not break to hear that? And then after the heartbreak came the anger, Femi, because I saw my country's national flag being used by a self-appointed Hindu group, my flag that I'm extremely proud of as an Indian. My flag represents the Constitution. The Constitution represents justice. And yet the men accused of rape were being defended using the Indian tricolor. And I felt both rage and shame. And I think those are the three emotions of millions of Indians today. It started with heartbreak, it was followed by anger, and it was followed by a sense of shame as to how and why this had been allowed to happen.
Farah, I want to show you this comment from Deepa Narayan. She's an author. Have a listen to what she said. She joined one of the protests.
I participated in the protests and demonstrations on Parliament Street against the rapes in Unnao and Kathua. There were older men, women, children, 5-year-olds who'd held up a sign saying, "Am I next?" There was outrage as well as despair at the cracks in democracy. The fact that there were police, there were lawyers, there were politicians involved in both cases, and an outcry from citizens determined not to be silent anymore.
Farah, I'm just wondering, it makes sense. I understand why all Indians will go out to protest the murder of a young girl who was so brutally raped and then killed. I don't quite understand how there could be protesters protesting against potential people who were being arrested and protesting that they should be released. Can you explain the context of how that might happen in India?
Well, the context of this is it's a very long story if you want to get into the real historical context of why this would happen. But the simple fact is that this girl happened to be a Muslim. Muslims are increasingly under attack in India, as all of us know, from 2014 onwards. There's been an increasing number of brutal public lynchings. These are videotaped, these are then circulated, these are seen as acts of valor. And nationalism has become equated with a Hinduized nationalism, with a Hindutva nationalism, which is that these are seen as acts that demand a national flag. For example, one lynching victim, when his attacker subsequently died of natural causes, the attacker's body was draped in a national flag. In one case in Rajasthan, the saffron flag, which is the symbol of the Hindutva BJP party, was hoisted atop the courts. So you are seeing uses of a national symbol increasingly in India to hail the advent of a very Hindu-dominated polity and a Hindu-dominated democracy in which minorities are not safe. The fact that this girl was a Muslim is not coincidental. And while as a feminist and as a women's rights activist, I have stood on the street and fought for the rights of all sexual violence, sexual assault survivors, and there is no dearth of them. When communal hate and religious bigotry combine with misogyny, it is a lethal mix. And that is what happened to this innocent child. You know, I just heard Barkha, and I am sadly still in a place of heartbreak. I am very much in that place of heartbreak because it's going to take a while for India to come to terms with what has happened to this 8-year-old baby. But I am also optimistic. An activist must be optimistic. I believe that the signs of angry people, even if they are only, a majority are on social media, and I am unfortunately not, but I still see a potential breaking and a bridging of these terrible fault lines in India along religious divides, because Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and Christians and everybody who makes this country great has come together and said no more to the brutalization of this little Muslim girl who was brutalized because she is Muslim, but also because she belongs to a very disempowered pastoralist community. So they are an easy target. There is no political party that is standing up for them as pastoralists. And so that is another dimension of this tragedy. She was the disempowered of the disempowered. She was a member of a tribal pastoral community called the Bakarwals. There are many such tribal communities. And in Jammu and Kashmir, both the dominant communities happen to be Muslim. And this was what chills your blood is the fact that this was planned carefully. It was not a crime of opportunity. This was carefully planned to scare the living daylights out of these pastoralists so that they would leave Katwa and never return. So this was a land, evicting people.
And Farah, let me just say for the purpose of our audience, this is not your opinion that you're stating here about this being a planned murder. This was from the police report. There's a lot of details that Burke have been mentioned, that you, Farah, have been mentioned, that actually is in the police report. Ajay, I know you want to come in. As you come in, let me just share this with you from your Prime Minister so that the audience knows what is the Prime Minister of India thinking about what's going on right now. He said, Recently, the incidents in the past 2 days are an embarrassment to the civilized society. We bow our head before the founding figures of the nation. No culprit will be spared. Justice will be delivered. There's been so much criticism about the Prime Minister, about how long he took to say something. RJ Gautam, what do you want to add?
A fair trial and fair investigation is a fundamental right, as well as that it's a human right. This is the first time in the history when the accused person are demanding that the CB Central Bureau investigation may investigate this matter, and the narco test also done with the accused person, because in all time only victim and victim families are demanding CBI probe and narco test, but this is the first time when the accused are demanding. Now this is a well-planned conspiracy to malign the image of the India, because India is a very progressive country, and this is what, if you go through the charge sheet, there three words they continuously repeated in their charge sheet. They said a minor Muslim girl, they said the accused are belong to the Hindu community, and they said the Hindu temple used for the crime. Now I am asking a very simple question. In the month of January, the crime has taken place, and after the 1 week of the incident, a 15-year Muslim boy caught by the Jammu and Kashmir police, which was released after the 15 days of the arrest. And this statement has made by the Honorable Minister of the Jammu and Kashmir government before the assembly. And what happened suddenly after the release of that boy? After the 2 months, they have been arrested 8 Hindu boys with regard to that brutal incident.
So,
and they
Mr. Ajay Gautam, remember that we're discussing this on international TV. Mr. Ajay Gautam,
I'd like to come in, Femi, if I may.
And help us understand what RJ is bringing up here. Thank you, Berka.
So I think that there is this absolutely needless defensiveness and insecurity about India's image abroad. There is a separate time and place to have a conversation about whether the Western media, whether the non-Indian media stereotypes the India story or only tells the stories of India in terms of communal tension or sexual violence. And I would be the first to get up and say, yes, there is a stereotyping of my country, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about an 8-year-old child. And I think what should embarrass us as a nation is the fact that our lawmakers, our politicians, and it isn't just the BJP. I interviewed the lawyer who first represented this little child, who's from the same community, the same village, Talib Hussain, and he told me that he had witnessed local politicians from every party, the BJP, the Congress, the National Conference, the Panthers party, name any party in that region, basically supporting the self-appointed Hindu group, which was called Hindu Ekta Manch, translated into English that stands for Hindu Unity Front. And this young lawyer, raised a very good question. He said, this is not to protect Hindus. This is to protect rapists. This is, in fact, an insult to Hinduism. And there you can see that tweet coming up. Like, this is that lawyer, and he's telling me, why not a Hindu-Muslim Ekta Manch? In other words, why not a front for Hindu-Muslim unity? When you name a front, the Hindu Unity Front, in the aftermath of the rape of an 8-year-old child, you aren't defending Hinduism. You are defending alleged, accused rapists, and it is this that embarrasses India abroad, not highlighting it.
Let me just bring this up. Yes, go ahead,
Farhan.
Allow me for my submission, please.
That the
Ajay, I hear you. Just give me 1 moment. Yes, Farah.
It's not only Talib. There is the lawyer representing her family is a Hindu. Deepika Rajawat is a Hindu woman who is being threatened by these ultra-nationalist Hindu goons and saying, how dare you take up this case? She has sought and been given, thankfully, protection by the Honorable Supreme Court of India because she feared for her own security. This is a Hindu lawyer and a Muslim lawyer standing up to defend the right of an 8-year-old who was decimated. And our soul, they are defending the very soul of this country. So to try and do this, the accused were Hindus and they are wrongly accused. I was actually hoping that Mr. Gautam was here to say how absolutely heartbroken he is that a temple was defiled in this horrible manner and that his gods had to watch.
All right, so Farah,
this
hold tight for a moment. Let's hear
and let me
whether
respond to
Ajay
that.
Gautam has that remorse or
Why
is upset at
allow
all.
me to make my submission, please.
And
There is
Ajay,
so many
Ajay,
charges.
I will absolutely. Let me just say, for the benefit of our audience, this little girl was kept in a temple and she was drugged and multiply raped, and then she was killed in a Hindu temple, which is what Farah was referring to. Mr. Gautam, go ahead.
The temple cannot be used for the crime scene, and this is the charge sheet only. The court has
But
not
are you
admitted
saying the
all
police is
allegations
lying,
and
Ajay?
charges
Are you saying the Jammu
made
and
in the
Kashmir
charge
police
sheet?
is lying?
Where
Sir, are you
where
saying the Jammu and
I
Kashmir
listen
police
all
is
of you
lying?
patiently. I
I just
listen
one
all of you
question.
patiently.
I promise
You
not to
cannot allow me
interrupt
to
after
speak
this.
for 30 seconds.
I promise not to interrupt after this, but are
Really,
you
allow
saying
me
that
for
the
make my
police is lying?
submission. I heard all of you. I
Are you
heard
saying the
I
police is lying?
heard all of you patiently. So allow me for make my my submission
Sure, I hope
at
you'll
least for
answer this
30
as well.
seconds. Did you read the autopsy report of? Did you
Sir, did you read the charge sheet?
go with the postmortem report? Have you read? Have you read? Have you read the
Have you read the
autopsy
charge
report? The
sheet?
officer, where is
Have
the
you
autopsy
read the
report?
charge sheet?
Police has
Have
just
you read
filed the charge sheet with 18 pages. There is no autopsy report. There is no autopsy report filed by the Jammu Kashmir police before the honorable court. My simple submission is that do you not want the real culprit may arrest and they should be behind the bar and Asifa get the justice? Why you are making this to Hindu and Muslim? I am talking ki Asifa get the justice and the real culprit may be arrested and they should be behind the bar. Why the SIT, Special Investigating Team, has been the officer of the SIT changed thrice, not one, not two, one, three, and there is a three different kind of report. I am very much aware ki I am sitting on international TV
just give me a
channel.
moment here. I want to bring in some of our online community.
I am making my
Mr.
submission
Gautam,
with all
Mr.
responsibility.
Gautam, I want to bring in some of our community as well. I hear you and I hear the debate going backwards and forwards. Farah, hold tight for a moment. Let me just bring in some of these comments from our online community. And Ada Merchant here says, India is sadly one of the only countries that allows rapists to roam freely. Let me just bring in another one here. Aparna, the act of rape is a dastardly offence. That section of our society is supporting the accused is horrific. And then let me actually go to the mother and father of Asifa, because let's bring it back to the personal tragedy that is really going on here and see what they have to say about why their daughter was murdered. Have a look.
She was a very beautiful and clever girl. She was pretty. Why was she killed? For what reason?
Everyone knows the details about the case now, and even God knows. These perpetrators must be asked why they killed such an innocent soul, and it must be investigated.
Ajay, I'm just looking.
I'd like to. Kami, can I make a quick point? Just very
go ahead.
briefly.
Go ahead, Bakar.
I think none of us, not Farha, not Ajay ji, nor I, none of us are investigators, right? We are not the detectives who investigated this case. All we can do at this point is quote from a very comprehensive 18-page police charge sheet that is now evidence in the judiciary. It's with the courts of India. What upsets me in this case, beyond the brutalization of this child and her murder, of course, is that whoever is guilty, I have never seen nationalism and Hinduism being used as a cloak to defend men accused of rape. If Mr. Gautam is right and indeed these men accused of rape are innocent, the court will decide that and the court will determine that. Why does that mean that while they are accused of rape, the tricolor of this country, what kind of nationalists are these? I think these are pseudo-Hindus and pseudo-nationalists and in fact are the enemies of Hinduism. And I hesitate to make this a Hindu-Muslim issue because millions of people who have risen for this child, and do note I'm not naming her because the law of this country does not allow us to identify this child, but millions of Indians who have risen for this little girl are of all faiths and the majority of them are Hindu. And all I want to say to Ajay Gautam is, if these men are innocent, court will decide that. He can't, I can't, but that doesn't mean anyone should be marching on the streets for them, preventing the police from actually going to the court to file their charge sheet. The lawyers behaved like a lumpen mob, and that's the real shame.
Why the all investigation officer? May I ask a question, please?
I want.
Allow me to ask a
Farah and
question.
Burqa, let's let Ajay just finish his thought. Ajay, may I ask you this and just get this to you? Sharu Savala says, I look at our PM with high morals. I have full faith in him. He's an individual who wants not only India to develop, but looks at the welfare of the whole world at large. This is somebody who has the confidence in your Prime Minister. How confident are you that these parents of this little girl, and actually all of the families of women and children who are suffering from sexual violence in India, that they are going to get justice? How confident are you?
Are you asking Mr. Gautam or asking
I am
me?
asking Mr. Gautam. He's thinking very deeply about that question. Mr. Gautam, how confident are you that the parents of Asifa will get some justice? Justice for Asifa?
I am very much standing with the justice for Asifa, and I am demanding. That's why either me and the rest of the local people are demanding the CBI probe, because the under which manner Jammu and Kashmir police are investigating, it's a biased manner, and they are the prejudice, and they are implicated the innocent people in this matter due to their political or any other pressure which I cannot disclose on this stage. And thereby I just demand if CBI may investigate this matter. The narco test will be done with the all officers who are investigating this matter, and the all accused which they are demanding narco test and the CBI probe, so that the truth will come before the nation and before the international community. Because due to this case, the image of India is malign very badly, and everybody is taking it. India is a rape capital. Many rapes are taken place in this
Mr.
country.
Gautam, let me just say
the statistical details of the France, of the Germany, and the USA.
I am not saying that India is a country for rapists. I'm just wondering how you're going to tackle this particular issue. Mr. Gautam, thank you. Farah, you're trying to get in.
Yes, I want to get in here. My problem with Mr. Gautam's position is quite simply that you are not allowing the law to take its course. You are trying to interrupt it. You are trying to obstruct it. You are trying to... It is unprecedented that the Bar Association of Jammu and that lawyers who are sworn to uphold, officers of the court, are preventing the police from filing a charge sheet in that court. They have been rapped on the knuckles. There was a protest today in Delhi.
Where is the post-mortem report? Ma'am, can you...
All right, so let me end up with some suggestions. So I don't have you two fighting backwards and forwards, Farah and Mr. Gautam. Guess, give me a moment. Guess, hold tight for a moment. All right, you hear the debate. Bring the volume down for me 1 minute in the control room. Thank you very much. Let me just share this with you. This is from Mohammed Ahmed, and he says, I am so sorry for the death of Asifa. This is live on YouTube right now. I am strongly suggest that the Indian government must bring the murder before the court, and the government should give compensation to Asifa's family. Let's hear the guests once again. This is the price of silence. Sometimes we have that on this show, sometimes we don't. We have to stop having the same conversation again and again, espousing justice as a retroactive eulogy upon girls and women who should be breathing. I think that pretty much sums up what we've been doing for the last half an hour. Burqa?
Oh, absolutely.
I want to just... Sorry, can I just jump in?
Farah, we're at the end of the show. Let me just ask Burqa to say something in 1 minute, in less than 1 minute. And if we've got time, we'll go back to you. If not, we'll do that online. Go ahead, Burqa. We've got 30 seconds.
Okay, I just want to say that I think Indians are tired of living from outrage to outrage. Yes, it's annoying. I can see what Mr. Gautam is saying, that we don't like a stereotypical outsider's gaze of our country. But that's a secondary debate right now. The primary debate is, how do we institutionalize a system where responses to rape, sexual violence, indeed to those who live on the margins of society, like this poor little girl and her nomadic community.
So Burqa Dutt,
institutional access
Farah Naqvi,
to
Mr. Ajay Gautam, thank you so much for bringing some of the passion and the debate that's happening in India right here onto the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.